All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Mr. Michael Murray joins us next. The former DG NOAA, that's your orientation agency. Good morning. Thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good to see you again.
But before we go any further, let me just take a look at what Mr. Okoronko just said right there in terms of building a reputation, because we've seen that over time. Because today we see former President Obasanjo saying Nigeria must have a national identity, we must have a dream. And that seems to be missing from the narrative of the country in terms of who we are, what we stand for, either locally or even when we get out there, what is our ethos. Those kind of things seem missing. And he said, look, over time, it is the reputation that politicians have built, perhaps, if I could put it differently, is what has got us to where we are today. So you've been in NOA, so getting that kind of narrative making the rounds, how does that resonate with you, for instance?
Well, incidentally, I was with former President Obasanjo over the weekend, and discussions centered around these issues of leadership, integrity, and so forth and so on. And what I deduced from it is that leadership can happen to you because of situations, and situations can also create leaders. So when you have leaders coming because for instance, Babangida created himself leader. Obasanjo himself was made a leader because situations demanded
political leadership.
Political leadership.
Oh, okay.
That is what I mean. Now, what we are looking at is how leadership in all aspects of society, whether it's political, whether it's social, private sector, corporate enterprise, we need to come to it with integrity. That has to be a given. We may not prepare ourselves for the job before we get there. We may not have the qualities. Listen, the Nigerian Constitution makes all of us eligible to contest for president of Nigeria. Once you go to school, once you have 18 years, and stuff like that is contained in the Constitution. But are we suitable? Are we suitable for the job? So you can be a professor, you can be a doctor, you can be whatever, but you are not suitable for leadership. And if you're not suitable for leadership, please stay where you are. Prepare others to lead.
But politicians, haven't they made it in such a way that they deliberately keep the people down? Because when you say haven't gone to school, many who ask questions as to the requirements to occupy some of the highest offices in this country is really, really low. The standards are very abysmally low. Because, I mean, to get into some professional offices, because by the way, the world is a global village now. And so to get into some professional offices in society, you require way much more qualification than you would be if you're to get into political leadership, because they think now it doesn't stand in the face of global village scenario. And as such, rather than change it or ensure that it's a lot more required of persons who want to occupy certain high offices, they just refuse to make that happen.
Yeah, sadly so, because like you rightly pointed out, the world has moved very fast. There was a time where we had quality at that level, where people came from secondary school, teachers' colleges, and became leaders, and they did well within the circumstances they found themselves. That was at our level. But now we have advanced. The world itself has advanced. But Chamberlain, capitalism was not built for Africa. Socialism was not meant for Africa. Communism was meant for China. All of these people create ideological extremes for themselves. So what have we created for ourselves?
So what is meant for us?
We are not creating anything for ourselves, so we just sit down and follow. That is why we have a confused paradigm. We are either, every day we are mixing, we are dealing with Chinese tomorrow, dealing with Russians tomorrow, dealing with Germans and Americans and everybody.
Well, isn't that an offshoot of the kinds of leadership that we have had? Because there are many who still think, well, no, they will disagree because they still feel that if certain right persons, right in the sense of the word, have gotten to those positions, that they could have definitely steered us differently because they've done it in their private businesses. And so they could do it at a higher level.
I agree with you, but don't forget also that even the previous leadership had development plans. You know, that that were in milestones. Where is the plan? What happened? Why did we abandon it? Why did we abandon it as a nation? And nobody is asking questions. Nobody is setting the agenda. And that is why when Koronko mentioned the fourth estate of the realm, I said, yes, we are approaching an election. What is the media saying? What agenda is the media setting for the people? Because there are other aspects of public education. If you don't go to school, you can learn from the media. So if the media is responsible and straightforward and decides to teach, to educate, because that is one of its functions, then it should begin to teach society. I know a community or a country where they are almost 95%, the literacy level is 95%. Maybe the population is small, but at least the citizens know what to do, whether they're in the market or they're selling fish or whatever, they know. So, and this kind of literacy level was either derived from a primary basic education, or you know, access to information about what is happening in society via the media. So they learn. That is the way to know what the occupant of a prospective office should be, his qualities. You know, then we choose them for that purpose. Today, we are in the 21st century, we're heading elsewhere. The people are moving to the moon. The world is moving to the moon. We have not started. We don't have electricity. We don't have this. We don't have that. It's just chaotic.
But from the scenarios we've seen playing out in the country today, where we see a lot of young people who are out there holding their own, I mean, we've seen the ramping up of their registration with the data, the voter data, and we do hope that they equally will be out there on the day of election, no matter what happens, to get their voices heard. Is it a matter of time before politicians can no longer keep the people down there? Because right now, there's a lot of frustration and lots of anger out there.
Let me tell you, Jambuling. The last 3-4 elections, you didn't see this level of mobilization among the people. Campaigns have not started, no public voter education, nothing. People are already mobilizing themselves to participate. They want to participate. There is an eagerness to participate. They want to take back the country from wherever they think it has gone to. That is good for the polity. And that is why government also should be careful. Because if you fail them, you are creating another avenue for something I don't want to talk about. Now, and how do you prevent that? People do not have jobs. They cannot get it. The Naira is tumbling. Every day today, I hear it's about 700, it's going up again, and so forth and so on. So what do you expect? People, you're overtaxing people. No, the tax doesn't go everywhere. You know, not everybody pays tax in this country, and the few that pay, you overtax them. Those others who can pay, the very rich, they devise means of escaping it. They donated 150 vehicles to police. They say they need rebate. They have done corporate social responsibility. We have a lot of such examples. If only 6.2% or so or thereabout of Nigerians pay taxes, then you know there is a problem. And that is not the way to even look for money. That shouldn't be the only way. Yes, it is an important way if that income is reflected in the kind of governance or development that they see. But they don't even see it. And if you want to raise income, if you want to raise government income, I mean, you should be talking to us about productivity. We should see industries coming. We should see your ease of doing business, attracting people to do the business. But it's not there. So what are we happy? We are just building an army of future bounders and terrorists and so forth and so on.
Looking through the former President Obasanjo's comment again, where he was advocating that we need an identity. We need a national dream, something that everybody will aspire to. Because today, almost in every sector you look to, you see those young professionals just fleeing the country, just trying to go look for greener pastures because they think this country has failed them. And so to that extent, big question marks concerning the NOAA. So many say, look, why do you think the NOAA failed to ensure that they build up? Because many messages coming through didn't even resonate with the people, unlike how it used to be before. Why was that the case?
Well, you see, the case of the NOAA is something I've been talking about for a long time, since I left office. I've had reason to reflect and also discuss with my successor in office. You see, the NOA is supposed to be, after the fourth rim of
State of the realm.
state, then that should be the fifth. In fact, it should be part of it because of the role it has to play in terms of citizen education, citizen mobilization, promoting dignity of labor, making sure that Nigerians love. And let's not, see, we need to promote a national culture. Even if it's not there, let's look for it and institute it and promote it. Today I hear and I read that they want to wipe out NOAA and so forth and so on. Please, for God's sake, government shouldn't do that. Government should support it, government should fund it properly and bring the right professionals. When we were in office, we wanted to create a situation where it could be a commission. As a commission with every representation from the states, cleared by their state assemblies to participate. People that have proven integrity, demonstrable quality, demonstrable love for this country. Let's look at what can, because the national culture for Nigerians is already there. It's just harnessing it to make it work for us.
Why do we need an NOA when ideally politicians themselves should be the NOA? They should be the one practicing what they preach and not just saying one thing and doing another, because whatever happens, people look to them because they're leaders in whatever field they are. And if they set the wrong examples, it will resonate far much more than the messages of the NOA, I dare say.
Society is not about politicians alone. Society is constituted by different groups that needs to be reached with a specific kind of message.
That's why the media can do that.
So if the NOA is strengthened and given the capacity to discharge its functions, even at the community level, it will now be engaged in moral suasion. It will be talking to the people at that level. It will implementing, it will communicating government policies, programs, and activities. It will assist the citizens to know their role within government and to know and play their role as citizens from the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But, you know, still in that same line of asking, why do we need an NOA? Because in many cases, if you ask a lot of people, they will just think, look, NOA being a government agency will always be a mouthpiece of government at whatever administration, whatever time the NOA exists. And to that extent, they also wonder, because all those messages, the big question is the trust quotient, which my colleagues always highlight. They say, look, over time, politicians never get the trust of Nigerians.
Yes.
They come in and tell you one thing, but when they get in there, they hide figures. They can't even tell you what negotiations or agreements they've got with other countries that will affect you. Contracts are signed, they are inflated. So that trust is not just there between Nigerians and politicians, and so it makes it a lot more difficult. But they look to what they do as opposed to what they say.
I wish I was the one asking you the questions, because you are providing the right answers. You are making the right observations about the challenge in this country. The NOA, it exists in other countries. Nearly every country that I have been to. China is giving the fourth most important agencies, the Central Guidance Commission, I've mentioned it. In Ghana, it's been there, in Egypt, and all of these places. When I was in office, Botswana came to learn.
Learn about NOA?
Yes.
What did they come to learn about?
They came to learn how we were mobilizing citizens, how the structure is.
Was there mobilization and there was structure?
Yes, we were. There is a structure. It is there in the 774 local government areas. And each office at that level has not less than 7 staff. And they just don't do house to house. They also organize community sensitization programs. And they can do it better if they have the resources. They don't have. When I was in office, I was sending 50,000 naira to the state offices. And that is what they would now use to do programs even at the state level. The local government level was getting just 10,000, and I increased it because when I came, it was just 2,000 naira they were given to them. They can't do the programs. So we are forgetting something. The NOA is custodian of values. It's supposed to work with our systems and institutions, whether they are traditional or government. Government should not have trust deficit. Government is supposed to be made up of responsible people who are meant to deliver service. So if they come to twist the people will twist them someday. It's not going to be long. So politicians must have the right message for the people, and they should work with the relevant. NOA shouldn't be seen as a biased organization. NOA shouldn't have trust deficit issues.
How can that happen if government keeps funding them?
Because government can fund them. Is government supposed to do the wrong things? Government is supposed to do the right thing. So NOAA is supposed to communicate the right things that government is doing. Unless if government thinks that it is a fraudulent organization, so NOAA should communicate the fraud that government is doing.
All right. Well, of course, there are more perspectives to follow up on that, but my colleagues in Lagos have got some questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, Mr. Omeri, good morning. You talked about, in justifying the retention of the NOA, you talked about a national culture. Pray tell, what's this national culture? And does this national culture that you believe is in existence, does it unify, does it give all Nigerians a sense of being Nigerian rather than being from a particular geopolitical zone or region, as the case may be, of the country?
That is the issue now. Every Nigerian, everywhere we meet, we say we are Nigerians. And Nigeria, you see the approach to each individual as Nigerians, where we have challenged, we are challenged, or we are in football and so forth and so on, which is a common example that people make. You see the kind of support, you see the solidarity. So what we need is to take from there and create a grand national solidarity for the nation based on the values that are common to us. The day we started abandoning the values that were meant to bind us together, that is the day we missed the road. As far as we had regions in the early 60s, Sadona, Awolowo, Azikiwe were saying the right things. They were nationalists talking about how to create that, that cohesion so that we can achieve and be the best.
The cohesion is only available.
Even the criteria for choosing.
So the cohesion is only available when Nigerians are involved in an activity, say football. But at other times, when there is nothing other that unites us than that activity, that sporting activity, there is no cohesion. So there is no national culture.
Before then, before we missed the road, before all of this became a problem, remember there was a time in this country when there was a crime. If there was one crime, theft or armed robbery on the road, the whole nation will stand together and be wondering how it happened. Today, what is the message? So it is not as if we didn't have a national culture of empathy and sympathy. We have a culture of wanting to be the best in the things we do and the choices we make. We have the culture of supporting each other. It's not just about football. Anything that we're doing, Nigerians are excelling. You can see it on social media. You can see it in the media. People are quick to identify that this is a Nigerian. Nigerians would be quick to identify a Nigerian that has graduated with a first class, or has gone to the moon, or performed the heart surgery with robots and so forth and so on. Nigerians celebrate that.
But Mr. Omeri, that's not what unites. That's not what gives Nigerians a sense of being Nigerian, rather than being from a particular region of the country. And that's why I'd like to put it to you that the NOA is missing in action in that regard, because it hasn't engendered a national consciousness through value reorientation of what it means to be Nigerian.
Well, you see, you are right. And that is the issue I just made. The NOA does not have the capacity, the resources to discharge the functions of that office. And look at where it is located. It is now maybe even a sub-department or something in the Ministry of Information, which is wrong. That is not the purpose of the NOA. It is hidden, tucked somewhere and hidden, not allowed to discharge its functions. Because people who are administering the Ministry of Information do not understand the role of the NOA within the structure of governance and society. So what I am saying, and please listen to me, in Nigeria there are values that we uphold, and these values are universal. There are 40 proven principles of character. They are in religion, they are in, whether they are traditional or Islam or Christianity, they are there. We just need to take those things and promote them. For instance, charity, hard work, do not steal. Are these not part of our national culture? Are these not the things that uphold our dignity? as a nation. Now, when it is not there, even people that we want to do business with think of us as, first and foremost, once they meet us, they think of us as criminals. You have to work to prove it.
Well, in the age of technology,
why can't we promote this as our culture?
Pardon me, Mr. Mary. In the age of technology, the digital age, it would seem like what is required to promote those values that you talk about, you know, are not ambitious figures in terms of finances. Which brings me to a follow-up to Chamberlain's question about funding. If you're asking for funding from government, well, if government, and as a result, is not guaranteed to do the right things all the time, then why should government fund the NOA?
Now, in the age of technology, how many people have access to the kind of technology you are talking about? In the communities, in my Kiana village, how many people can do Twitter or Facebook and so forth and so on? And even if they are, it's the young people that are doing it. The very young people that are doing it, that may not be anywhere to control the levers of society.
That also underscores
the mass.
That also underscores, my apologies, Mr. O'Mary, that also underscores the importance of integrating what Bukola has just asked, because, you know, from what we hear, what we know at this moment, the most popular demographic in Nigeria are the young people. And that's really the space to reach them. But we'll talk more on that when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, Mr. Mary, you know, the questions are myriad, you know, and as Chamberlain said, we can only begin the conversation at this point. The National Orientation Agency over the years has been known to, you know, be generally quiet, I mean, in recent time at the very least. But the glory days, many will not forget, where the mobilization of the people was through the media. The media is not going to initiate the conversation. It has to be the NOA doing the initiation. So it then begins to raise questions on the minds of so many people. Let me begin, you know, let me ask a question around what Chamberlain raised earlier about the comments of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where he said, he reminded us of what we have in Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution. And he said, Chapter 2 of the Constitution says, national ethics shall be discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, and patriotism. Now, many may not even be aware that these things are part of our core values as a nation. One would expect that it's the national orientation that would be at the forefront of letting people know these, and consequently make it a part of our daily lives, at work, on the roads, at home.
Now, your colleague talked about using technology to do this. How do you teach people these values, these core values that you just read out from the Constitution, using technology? I mean, using Twitter and Facebook and so forth and so on. It can only be one of the tools to reach the people. But
let's assume that it's just one of...
I spoke to people yesterday. I was at the airport.
Mr. O'Mary, let's assume that that is one. It's just one of the tools. But many do not even, and I think that's why Chamberlain, you know, began the conversation around the orientation by the people. Many don't even know whether there is an NOA. That's perhaps the reason for the call. But look, if we're funding it and we can't hear about it, what's the use?
But you are not funding it. The last time I spoke with the agency, there is no funding. And there is a limit to what other sources, if you want development partners to come in, they will only fund what interests them. They can't go about funding your values for you. They can't go about funding you to communicate your programs, policies, or how to... They want to look for places or opportunities to exploit.
If the government, in your opinion, just a second,
the government of Nigeria must take it as a serious matter.
Just a second. Yes. If government, as far as you're concerned, is not funding the NOA, what does that suggest to you? That the NOA is not important, or what?
What suggests to me is that the operators of government at that highest level do not understand that Nigeria has a need, that there is a gap that NOAA was created to fill in the first place, and therefore it should be supported to do the work. They don't understand it.
So what then happens?
If the Constitution itself
Go ahead.
has provided in it this the world looking for debt relief, was it for himself? He got our debts wiped for Nigerians to breathe and begin afresh. Did we sustain it? You see, you cannot do everything. That's why I say situations bring leaders. If people had continuously built on what was started, we wouldn't be talking about debt anymore. We wouldn't be looking for Chinese loan or American loan or whoever loan. We'll be doing some other things. But now, where are the things?
Do you think politicians will learn their lesson this period, where because of the momentum that young people seem to have now, going for a particular political party?
The politicians are under severe threat if they don't know. Anybody who aspires to office and doesn't know what to do, that it is time to draw a line and begin to serve the people as promised. I am telling you, we have been seeing it already. People who have been going to their constituencies and been chased out, politicians. So it's going to be worse. Because the energy of society, that is the youth, they are now aware, awake, and ready to participate, to take charge, to be involved.
Or maybe we should end with saying, well, they can't lie to the people all of the time and expect to get away with it. Times have changed.
Yeah, of course.
And you can't keep a good man down, as they say. But we have to thank you for coming on. Mr. Michael Mary is a former DG NOAA. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Thank you so much.